her done here. Oh, pop that on there. Hello, hello. My name is Cat King. Give me 1 second. Let me actually stop sharing for 1 second. I want to share with you what I'm talking about right now. First of all, this is a sound test. Can you hear me? Are we muted? No, we're not. Okay, good, good, good. All right. All right. Hello. My name is Catherine King. I'm a sci-fi writer who has been battling treatment-resistant schizophrenia for over half my adult life now. And I am here to share with you a little bit about what I'm up to. So I wrote this story back in high school, and it was a world-building experiment. And I didn't really go anywhere with it. I had my sister read it. She liked it. It was called Glass Stars. And more than anything, I really just wanted to see myself in a sci-fi story. So it was an experiment in, you know, character creation and development. And again, like I said, it was really kind of like an experiment in world building. I was heavily influenced by Star Trek, by Asimov, and I just wanted to kind of create my own world. But I didn't really know where I was going to go with it or what I was going to do to really make it its own. And I was still trying to figure out who I was at that time too. But I knew one thing, which is that I was and am a lesbian. So I decided that I wanted to really, um, I guess, put that on the back burner. And I joined the military. And I was 17, and then I experienced the army, and that shaped a great deal of who I am today. And so, yeah, I finally kind of came back to this story during the pandemic and decided to complete it, to really bring it to completion with a beginning, a middle, and end, which it had a beginning, it had the beginnings of a middle, but it didn't really have an end. I guess at the time I was so young, I didn't really think I had anything to say, really, and I believe that science fiction should really say something. As a woman in the genre, I grew up with like The Matrix and everything like that, but I never really, I didn't like want it to be so dystopian and dark. So I decided I would create a post-cyberpunk story. And I went to film school. I was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 2012, and I wrote a whole bunch of stuff about that experience of just discovering that my PTSD wasn't like just PTSD. It was really fully fledged schizophrenia, which did run in my family. It was a really harrowing and dark time in my life. I lost complete control of my faculties at many different places and stages. But I went to film school, and I wrote a short film about a teacher. I always planned to be a teacher, and who had schizophrenia and was dealing with it, but ended up having a psychotic break in front of her classmates or class and her students. And this woman, her character's name was Eleanor Glass. So I kind of sort of conflate. I don't want people to think that like the Awakening characters are the same characters as the Glass Stars characters. But today is about Glass Stars. It's about the entire transmedia property, and how it started, and my story, and how it all kind of came together, and how where we are now. And for me, it kind of starts with what I'm about to show you now, which is I wanted to give people a sense of the story and the world of the characters because this is an original sci-fi story. And as a screenwriter, like I said, I went to film school, but I wasn't even able to attend the screening of uh, my thesis film because of my schizophrenia and because of just like I said, the place I was at in my life, and psychologically, I wasn't able to be there. But the actress who had played the lead role of Eleanor Glass, she maintained a friendship with me, and she said to me that, we wish she'd been there because I think it would have been important for you to see people standing for this. Apparently, there had been a standing ovation or whatever, and I was like, oh, which means that people wanted to maybe hear my story. Maybe I should focus my science fiction on this because, there is very little accurate representation or portrayal of schizophrenia and psychosis. I mean, you see psychosis as a plot device. We see psychosis used to uh, sort of, yeah, spice up a storyline. And oftentimes these stories are not based in any kind of reality, and they get away with that by saying, well, it's science fiction. But truthfully, speculative fiction that features psychosis could really be rooted in accurate in truth if the filmmakers, producers, writers, uh, the teams behind them were willing to seek out the first-hand knowledge and experience of people who actually suffer from schizophrenia or treatment-resistant psychosis. And not everybody who hears voices and sees things that other people don't see has schizophrenia. Psychosis comes in many different flavors. It's a complete spectrum. Schizophrenia itself is a spectrum. I've learned over the years as well. And while there is such a thing as drug-induced psychosis, you can't blame psychedelics or drugs purely. Uh, you can't blame psychedelic drugs and psychotropic drugs solely for schizophrenia. I mean, you just can't blame any one thing. There's people who use psychedelics their whole lives and they never go on to develop schizophrenia, and then there are people who, try it one time and they're never quite the same after that. But usually those people have red flag symptoms ahead of time that people are ignoring or not noticing because the person is kind of hiding them, like I did in high school. I hid um, a lot of the things I was experiencing from people. Um, so yeah, so I did have things I wanted to say, but whenever I did try to share the things that had happened to me up until that point in my life, going on, 17, 18 years old, joined the military, that all really did change the way that I see the world and the way that I see technology now today in today's world being what it is and seeing sort of like this de-evolution or this regression back toward a very sad and dark place of inequality and all of that, but also technology and how communities and institutions can fail us even despite their best intentions. And so, even here, we have a story about lesbian and bi women who come together to create a sanctuary for themselves, but also for the communities who are undesirable and marked as undesirable by the pro-natalist technocratic government in the near future in 2152 in Seattle. We have a whole second American Civil War. Glass Stars really does become about what I really am asking the world, which is who are we? Is this the world we want to raise children in? What does being human really truly mean? What is death? Is there a way to stop death? Should we stop death? But at the heart of it, it's asking, what if a digital world that was created by a woman with schizophrenia to escape her suffering became humanity's last, final, and only hope? And so that's what Glass Stars is about. So this January, I thought it would be great because I went ahead and I completed the book. I turned the short story of Glass Stars into a novel or novella. And now it's actually a trilogy, a complete trilogy of books. So I went from the last 5 years, from during the height of being like at home, stuck, laid off from work, suffering with, again, treatment-resistant schizophrenia, meaning voices all the time and all kinds of different hallucinations just plaguing me. And then I found this medication that seemed to work. It was Geodon. And I thought I'd found like the miracle drug, a little blue pill. I call it jokingly. And but I started having these panic attacks, and the panic attacks really took over my life. And eventually, they progressed into dystonic eye reactions, meaning that my eyes like rolled upward, and they got stuck, and I couldn't actually close my eyes for very long without feeling even more panic. It triggered like the most severe, intense fight or flight responses. I can't even begin to explain it, but I was like stuck in place. My tongue would start to press against my teeth. It looked like I was having a seizure. To the outside onlooker, it looked like I was having a seizure. In fact, it started happening more and more and more frequently to the point where I actually like my relationship ended because I was pretty much just like ruining the relationship with all my panic attacks, and I just wasn't normal, easygoing as I really wanted to be and even saw myself as. But yeah, my schizophrenia has really definitely like destroyed a lot of my relationships because it has changed the way that I see and view people around me. It makes relationships harder because I can't trust people. I can't uh, trust easily anyway, very easily at all. And so, yeah, it makes me question people's motivations all the time. I'm very suspicious of people. And so, yeah, I decided that, yeah, my story should be told. And I don't need to completely write a totally fictional world of characters. There are people who definitely are amalgamations or composites of myself and others in my life, like my father. So I'm going to go through with you. Today's episode is really about kind of just breaking down Glass Stars, the universe, this transmedia property. What is it? It's a short story that I adapted into a novel, and then I adapted it again with some screenwriting skills. I adapted it for the screen in the form of a pilot for television, which now it's basically just going to be a streaming series, a web series, and it's got 5 seasons planned. But right now we have a pilot which has garnered already 11 awards and accolades, and I guess I'm proud of that, but it's just like, it's only to say that people are resonating. The story is resonating, and that's all that really matters, is not to, I guess, show off or to try to make this sound bigger than it is. Although I will say that my YouTube channel already has garnered almost 130,000 views in the last 2 months alone. So there is attention toward this because people are starting to see that the media doesn't do right by people like me. You forget that I'm here because there's such a small population. It's easy to forget about us. And yet, when you look at the media, look at most of the media on YouTube, is fraught, just chock full of schizos out in the street being, caught on camera, being crazy and doing crazy shit. And the thing is, a lot of those people aren't even really truly schizophrenic. They might have drug-induced psychosis, or they might be schizophrenic, but they also have comorbid substance use disorders. So again, we're talking about human beings who are being put on display as spectacles for the rest of the world, and these videos get millions of views, millions of comments and likes, and that generates a lot of revenue and income for the people who run those channels, right? But what about people like me who actually suffer from the illness and don't see royalty checks from movies like Split, don't see checks from YouTube because we're not a spectacle, and I'm not, I guess, in sensationalizing myself enough by showing myself at all my worst moments. I mean, it's hard to, without following me around all the time. And the thing is, I need to have some semblance of privacy. It's already difficult enough to feel safe in my own home, feeling as paranoid and feeling as just generally unsafe as I do in the world that we live in right now. I am a transhumanist, which means I believe in the ethical use and proliferation of technology, which actually truly benefits from an ethical standpoint, uh, through an ethical framework, which we all have to agree on democratically. We can't just rely on one entity, one institution, or one person to make those decisions for us, which is why you'll see that in the world of glass stars, the the story takes place in Seattle, which of course was a tech hub, a center of technology, technology and technological process for many years, but has since progress, excuse me, for many years, many decades, but has since sort of fallen out of favor with the public because look at what's happened. Greed, this belief in this optical delusion known as money, the fact that money isn't backed by anything, the fact that money itself is a byproduct of selfish a man's delusion and belief that we have to have something to do. We have to work for something. We have to have a tangible thing that we work toward and work for. When ultimately we really don't need to actually be working in the same ways that we have been traditionally these last, you know, 3,500 years at least. Religion definitely plays a role in that. Faith definitely butts heads with science, but there are uh, areas and places and spaces in our culture now in society where there is an overlap between faith and science, spirituality and religion. And we see a lot of that happening now, especially with this. It sort of seems like strange bedfellows to us now, but you can see where pronatalists like Curtis Yarvin and Elon Musk are kind of like teaming up with people who are religious, even though neither one of them really are married, I should say married, uh, to their beliefs. Elon Musk is actually more committed to his beliefs in pronatalism and terraforming Mars and creating a whole new telepathic grok-enabled brain chip implanted, telepathic, basically a post-evolutionary, a post-human species. I mean, that's what he wants, but there has to be a middle ground between him and the far right Christian, the New Apostolic Reformation movement, where it's very regressivist, it's very almost like Handmaid's Tale-esque. I mean, what happens when these two come together and then kind of clash? And we're seeing that happen now with, what we believe we're seeing between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, which is a really bad souring. But again, perception is not always reality. You can't trust everything you see and hear. And so remember that Donald Trump is a man who knows how to get people's attention and keep the people's attention, and he's managed to do that for the last 10 years now, solidly. So it just goes to show that what I'm doing with glass stars is sort of like an analogy. It's analogous to what's truly happening, and it's happening through this narrative vehicle, this engine, the story engine. That actually puts women at the helm of the story, women and people who identify in the LGBTQIA plus spectrum of identity and identities, I should say. And so it really does say, what if we did have all of the power and the say and everything like that, and we had a place of our and space of our own, we could still fall prey to the same sort of temptations of like greed and desire for power and influence over the welfare of the people we've promised and sworn to protect. And so we have that, sort of the way that Democrats feel toward the Democratic Party and toward progressivists and toward technologists who are denying the threat of AI, and because of we're not in a Star Trek utopian future. We aren't there yet. In fact, even Gene Roddenberry believed that there would be a third world war before we would even come into contact with aliens and come to realize we were all one species and needed to band together to face the outside external forces out there beyond us. So it's just a matter of trying to figure out where we all really fit in and belong. So that all being said, that's kind of an overview of like Glass Stars, where it began, me and my background as an Army veteran, coming from like a Christian. My parents believe in speaking in tongues. There's a character, Neil Chandler, who is very pivotal, extremely pivotal. He and his wife's characters are extremely important to the overall canon of the universe of the characters in Glass Stars. You have Lily Rhodes and Eleanor Glass, the married women who run the subterranean complex in 2152. Eleanor has died 50 years prior, around 50 years prior to the where we start the story of Glass Stars in the pilot and in the table reading, which is coming up in January, and then it kind of goes forward from there. So we kind of start in um, 2152 in Seattle, which has kind of part of it has rewilded because of people seeking shelter underground for the last 150 years. The surface has begun to rewild, and Eleanor's people and a couple of different coalitions of folks have tried to band together to try to restore the Puget Sound region. But there was a nuclear disaster when Mount Rainier was attacked, and so the whole area became uninhabitable for many, many decades. And so there was a plan to rewild it and like bring people back to the surface eventually. But the organization that seeks to bring down this simulation, as well as the structure which everybody inhabits and lives inside of. Um, and it's sort of meta because they live inside this underground complex, and then inside that are people living inside little pods, which then they jack into this simulation. It's an idealized version of Earth. Everyone gets their own like perfect Earth simulate scenario essentially, and you get it's all around fusion energy. And so there's this whole complex called Subterra, and it was designed and created by Eleanor Glass and her husband Henry Glass, who died from cancer. Their son, Faraday Glass, is a representative on Mars. There is a lunar colony, there's a Martian colony. Each of them has their own simulations, respective simulations. Mars has Mars 2, and the moon has Luna 2, or but the moon is a independent colony. It doesn't connect. There's a backdoor entry point, of course, always, but they're unofficially like attached. So they're officially an independent colony and they don't have any formal affiliation with the other two colonies. And then there's um, Mars, which is connected to Earth, and people who are in Mars too as avatars in their avatar form can actually travel between Mars 2 and Earth 2 if they want to visit, but it takes a lot of fusion to do that. And so it's kind of expensive. So yeah, there's a currency, and that currency is fusion energy credit. This underground complex sits on Elliott Bay, where Elliott Bay used to be, and has been drained, has kind of drained out and never really fully recovered because the waters had receded far enough back for that whole area to be basically wasted, laid waste to when the nuclear radiation eventually spread to the Seattle area from Mount Rainier. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of the lore and backstory here, kind of building to where I'm going with this, which is that this January I'm going to be hosting a table reading, but the table reading is enhanced with augmented reality. And so I want people to understand that for somebody like me who experiences treatment-resistant psychosis, Lily is a sort of a composite of me, and so she lives inside of the simulation because the simulation is hallucination free. For her, the hallucination um, is in the real world. So when she steps out of her pod, she hears all the voices come back and she sees all the severed heads and the limbs and everything like that everywhere she goes. And so she tries to stay in the simulation as much as possible. In 21 around 2100, when Eleanor dies from ALS, she is expected to return in clone form, but it's going to take time, and so they're not sure if it will actually work or not. And Lily's worried that she may come back with and develop ALS again or some other illness, but their anniversary is coming up. So 2152 marks the 50th wedding anniversary for Lily and Eleanor, and it's the day that essentially that Eleanor is expected to return in her second life self, which is her cloned body, her second body. And yeah, it's kind of where Glass Stars, the pilot begins, is in the middle of this election cycle where there's the president, the incumbent president, President Harding, a cyborg president, but also under attack for failing to keep the shard secure and for the spiral coming under more and more physical attacks from the UAT organization. And it's, it's slags or it's white, it's black sign, black hat team of hackers who are trying to like destroy the simulation internally, but also there are people who are now trying to infiltrate the actual physical structure because in the deepest level of it is something that they can use to actually implode the entire structure from the beginning, from the inside out, which would kill everybody inside, pretty much. So they have this grand plan. They've started attacking the generators. There are two generators located on the surface level, and then there's one in the heart, the deep of the spiral of Subterra, and that is called the Lattice Vault. It's in Lily's original lab. That was the first lab that she used when they first began to construct the spiral and integrate it with this whole metaverse known as Earth 2 back in the day. So there's a little bit of an overview, is kind of where we start. So I wanted to show you kind of what I'm working on. So as somebody who has concentration issues, I have ADHD, makes and schizophrenia, of course, makes it worse. I see and hear a lot of things all the time, pretty much constantly. So augmented reality is a good way to help me like ground in the real world because as long as I knew that I created the technology, I kind of trust it and it would know me well enough to know my expectations of it. I guess if that makes sense. It's very meta, it's very like cerebral, but Lily did the same thing. So Lily gave herself a set of bionic eyes and she now walks around in the real world with HUD overlays and like real-time vitals monitoring. And then Sharon is Ascension AGI, who is a clone of Eleanor Glass, one of five clones. Each of the clones operates and basically runs each of the colonies, each of the spiral colonies or Subterra colonies uh, around the world slash country. There are only very few that were built in the first place. There were like five of them. One of them was destroyed in the initial attack. And then, yeah, so the whole a lot of lore there to get into, but I just want to show you what I'm working on. So I use Canva code, and before you judge me too harshly, I just want to say that the reason why I'm doing this is because I just need to get started. I literally am a disabled veteran with no money. I have nothing. So, I have to use everything I do have. And right now I have Canva. Right now I have these tools and I have access to them. And I'm on a timer with Zoom as it is because I'm on Zoom's basic edition, which is free. So I can't stay on here longer than 40 minutes and I'm already running out of time as it is. So I just want to show you kind of where I'm at. I'm trying to create a web experience for you and everybody to to get to know the world of Glass Star's universe, the whole lore of it and everything, the story of it without necessarily having to go read the books and pay for the books. I want to be able to create like a free experience. So this will be like a web tour, like a web experience. It's immersive, it's interactive, it's designed to give you the perspective of being an outsider to this whole thing, somebody who's kind of coming up to this whole area and from another place and finding it for the first time and just and meeting Neil Chandler. And he's going to teach you kind of about this whole place and why he's not part of it and his lore and backstory. So let me kind of walk you through what we have so far. And you can see I'm already on the 15th iteration. So I'm going to kind of go through this as quickly as I can so as not to lose it. So let me actually stop my share real quick because I need to make sure that I'm sharing everything I want to share. Um, what? Okay. All right. So you can see you're you arrive. So we begin on the surface. We're in the Puget Sound area of Washington, which is Seattle, or what was once Seattle. And again, it's the year 2152. So you're kind of just coming up. You find this chapel and you meet Neil. And Neil is your guide, seems like. He's friendly but cautious. Welcome to Subterra. This is the chapel, our entry point for newcomers. Um, I need you to fix it because Neil isn't like an official guide in the same way that Sharon is the Subterra. Okay, so you can see I'm kind of just teaching it. And okay, so you can see I'm kind of teaching it. I know like vibe coding, prompt engineering, all of this Canva code. It's not perfect at all, but it does give me something to sort of start with, and from here I can actually teach. It's helping me actually learn how to verbalize and articulate what I need for later on. So as I continue to build like the augmented reality features, like the overlays, all of the animations and things like that, I'm building all of that myself. I did generate some AI stuff just to get inspo, just to get me started on some visual concepts and things like that. But I still do a lot of this stuff. Most of this stuff is really being done manually. But the coding of all this, like I just need something to give to the public to show that the story, while it may be original, new, a little bit subversive, it is worthwhile and it's worth exploring. And then it's gamified, it's interactive, it's immersive. It's me. It's everything that I would want as an audience member, especially a millennial who's into sci-fi but hasn't seen a lot of accurate representation portrayals of LGBTQIA plus identities, as well as like Black, Indigenous people of color. I mean, our cast and crew, like for the table reading event, Glass Stars Live is coming up while it's running its lines, while it's coding for me. Let me just tell you more about Glass Stars Live while I have time. So you can see that I'm building this Glass Stars Homecoming web experience, which is a portal to the Glass Stars live event as well as the Glass Stars series when it becomes available. And we'll start with the pilot, of course. We need the money. You know, it's going to cost us a good solid 100K to produce the pilot alone, which makes the entire first season, 6 episodes, $600,000 to produce. And that's being, that's being conservative. Most sci-fi series, they require a heck of a lot more money than that, multi-million dollar projects we're talking about. But this is an independent series. It's completely run by like women and people who identify with the LGBTQIA plus community in some way, shape, or form. And of course, we also have heterosexual and heteronormative allies and people who are, just here to be a part of the discourse that this show is intended to generate and to really bring to show us sort of in the Star Trek or Roddenberry-esque way of the dialogues that happen between the characters. Our dialogues are already happening here in 2025. I'm just propelling us into the future and sort of predicting where we might end up. And then I'm adding my own spin to it later on because the books are very metaphysical. They become very much about metamorphosis and transformation and acceptance of that, and that nothing really ever truly dies. We cover the holographic principle, the anthropic principle. We talk about holographic theory and all of that, simulation theory, simulacrum. It's all really deep. But it comes back down to people and how people deal with change and with change that does fly in the face of everything they believe in and the power struggles that ensue. And they continue on, they cycle through generations. And so Glass Stars aims to sort of show sort of where we will be 150 years from now if we don't like get it together. This is kind of what's going to happen is that we will continue to be ideologically segregated from each other to the point where we're in our own little metaverses, our own little bubbles, our own little pods, and to the point where we will become so blinded by our own self-interest that we'll actually begin to be able to be convinced through misinformation, psyops campaigns, things like that, through it, bad actors, that we are in a place that shouldn't exist, like that is actually, uh, blasphemy or an abomination. So yeah, there's a lot to it, but there's the heart of it is that my upbringing and who I am, it it's all there, you know. Let's see, we're going, it's already at 1,250 lines. It's going pretty fast, definitely faster than I could do. I just wanted to get it right as it can. I want to push it to the limit. I want to see how far we can push this technology because if I can use this technology to help bring awareness to treatment-resistant schizophrenia as well, in particular, to the plight of military veterans who suffer from schizophrenia and complex PTSD. I think that's really who I'm trying to do all this for. I just want you to be seen. And what really shocks and appalls me the most is that our industry just doesn't seem to think that it matters. I get a lot of people saying, "Oh, of course I agree with you. It's not right that schizophrenic people should be, exploited by the media, by the film industry, entertainment industry in this way. That, it's wrong of people to like M. Night Shyamalan to make millions upon billions of dollars over the course of decades by exploiting psychosis as a plot device. I mean." we deserve to be consulted and we deserve to have our stories told. And since I'm such a sci-fi person, I just thought this was the only way I could really do it. So yeah. Um, This will be an interactive tour of the Subterra complex. It's affectionately nicknamed the Spiral. By 2152, you can imagine that everything sort of has a nickname. It's an institution of itself, Subterra, and the last remaining one that anybody knows is actually like functioning. A lot of the Subterra complexes around the area have, there was like one in California in Palm Springs, one in Las Vegas, and then one in on the East Coast, and they all had their own were all powered like internally, and none of them developed a metaverse and all of this the way that this one did. So I don't know, I haven't really built that part of like the prequel part of the story yet, but we definitely do have like a whole, yes, a whole world. So let's see what we got here. We got chapel, we got Naomi's office, we got the official subterranean entrance. Okay, but now we have a problem with like order of events here, sequence of events. But uh the official, okay. All right, so we have the first three scenes. So this is all kind of organized and set up by like scenes. So I'm going to go ahead and pause here because I only have about 40 minutes to record at a time. So I'll go ahead and pause here and then I'll pick up where we've left off so I can continue kind of working through this whole fun build with you.